Guys, can you hear me? Give me 1 second. I'm going to test. Okay, it is gone. All right. The echo was my fault, but I know how to fix it now, in case that happens again. So, guys, if the echo does come back, just let me know. But I don't think it will. All right. So the topic of the conversation, as y'all can see in the title, is the Save Act. And so, Nico, you're in favor of the Save Act.
I
Eh,
am in favor of the Save Act, yes.
Okay. All right. So, before we get into that, let's talk about what the Save Act is. There is a concern with, with millions of Americans who they're concerned about fraudulent voting, non-citizens voting, um, people double voting, dead people voting, like or people or unlawful voting on dead person's behalf, etc. Stuff like
Hmm.
that, right? And so the Save Act is supposed to prevent that.
Yep.
So now, I guess I like to before I dig into it, I like to hear, I guess, your reasoning for being in favor of it.
Yes, absolutely. So, my understanding of the SAVE Act is legislation that would further, it would essentially add measures to ensure that every person who votes in federal elections are indeed United States citizens. And so, I think that any American, or I would argue that any and every American should also want only Americans to vote in our elections that only Americans are allowed to vote in.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had in recent years a record number of illegal immigrants enter and remain in this country unlawfully. So I think
That's a
with
fact.
that, yes, so with that added fact, I think that it presents, well, it presents a number of issues, but one of which that many, again, like you said, millions of Americans believe is an issue, or at least could be an issue, is people who are not citizens of America, of the United States of America, voting in our elections. So that's essentially why I'm in support of the Save Act, because I think that it presents an opportunity for us to have more secure and less fraudulent elections. And by less fraudulent, I don't mean less elections that are fraudulent. I mean less fraud overall in our elections.
Okay. So have you looked at any of the studies that digged into uh, voter fraud?
Yes, yes, I have.
So I pulled up several,
Hmm.
and they're all pretty much saying the same thing, that voter fraud
A
is
non-starter.
almost. Say it again.
A non-starter. Yeah.
Well, what it's saying, like it's almost like non-existent.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean.
So yeah, so this is weird to create this entire new system to prevent a non-existent problem. So like
Uh,
you're having, like, I think like Utah did a study. They went through 6 million of their voter registrations, and of their 6 million, you know how many people they found who were illegally registered?
very low number. I'm gonna guess.
Two.
Two.
And you know
Yeah.
how many actually voted?
How many?
Zero.
None. Oh,
Yeah.
great. That's good news.
Yeah, and those two were probably just errors. Like
Uh huh.
people with the same name or similar names, stuff like that, changing addresses. Like the voting twice, or voting in a state where you're not supposed to, or somebody coming in here to America to vote. Like there's just isn't much evidence of that. Like I've seen several YouTube videos. I've seen people on right wing groups on Facebook. They'll make these posts talking about how there's a bunch of immigrants coming to America, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're voting to vote in leftists, like stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. It
Mm-hmm.
just seems to be nonsense. Like I got, I mean, I'm not going to bore the audience by reading them all, but I got probably
Mm-hmm.
about 30 different studies in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just over and over again non-existent. They did a 14-year study in one case, and they
Mm-hmm.
found 6 instances of voter fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And so it not only is it almost non-existent, for the most part, it mostly comes from the people who are claiming that the left is committing voter fraud. Like it's your
Mm-hmm.
boy from Turning Point, that Turning Point CEO, I forget his name. He just got convicted of voting fraud in
Oh,
Georgia.
I
Did you
thought
see
you.
that?
No,
Not
I
not
thought.
not Charlie
Wait,
Kirk. No, no.
I was gonna say yeah. I was referring. I thought it was Charlie Kirk. Oh no, I did not.
Yeah. So I
Wait,
guess
wait.
what
Sorry,
was you,
sorry. Just he himself got convicted of
yes, he himself he pled
voter fraud.
guilty in court. So he was trying to rig the election. Like in
Wow.
the same state, the same county, Fulton County, Georgia, where
Yeah.
Trump was trying to cheat.
Wow. Where Trump was trying to cheat.
Hmm.
Trump was trying to cheat in Fulton County, Georgia.
Well, I mean, he called he called the governor, and he called the guy that was running the elections down there at the time. He's like, hey, I mean, I don't remember the whole audio tape, but I mean, it is there
Uh huh.
on the internet. He's like, if I can just get some more votes, if I can just get like 20,000 or something like that. I mean, that was voter fraud in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as say it was voter fraud. I think
okay.
that one of the things I did
Like,
see
you don't think
about
like asking an official in charge of elections to give you more votes, you don't think that'd be voter fraud?
no, if you're asking an official to give you votes that don't exist, I think that's definitely voter fraud.
That's
What I
what it
remember,
sounds like he was
what,
doing, in my opinion.
what, yeah, no, sure, for sure, and we can. I mean, yeah, but I think what I heard more of was essentially talking to these people, these election officials and state officials, and essentially saying it's not possible that I legitimately lost. Something's got to be wrong. Essentially, like find the fraud, find all these illegal votes, so that I can win like I'm rightfully supposed to. And if I can add a critique that I have
It
for
sounds like you're talking about Trump,
no, no, yeah,
because
no, I'm
he's the
talking.
only one that I
No,
hear
no, no,
do
no,
that
no, no, no. I'm
on either
talking
side.
specific. No, no, I'm
Okay.
talking specifically about Trump. I'm
Okay.
saying this is what Trump did,
Yeah.
and and if I can add an additional critique that I have of him, is with the whole 2020 election. I think. Look, I think the fraud that I think is possible. I think people disagree that it's even possible. I think it's possible. It depends how deep you go into the system. But even with its possibility, I believe Trump, with his all the actions post election, I think he was desperate. I think he was definitely shocked at the outcome. So shocked that he concluded that it had to be a result of fraudulent activity. Which, again, whether that's actually the case or not,
Hmm.
different people have different opinions. I personally think that if there was fraud, I think there probably was. But to the extent to change the outcome of the election, I do not believe. I believe that for the most part, he just lost. And for some, to me, pretty obvious reasons. But anyways, we won't. That's a little side topic, but just and I like to say that to people so they don't so they like I have plenty of things that I disagree with Trump, the way he handles things, the certain things that he says,
Hmm.
certain ways that he articulates,
Yeah, yeah.
certain
We don't
things.
have to make it about Trump. We're making it about
Right?
the
Yeah,
state
exactly.
man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I guess so. Like, what if are you admitting that there
Mhm.
is little to no evidence that there is a massive voter fraud problem in the United States?
I would agree that I have not seen ample evidence to support the claim that there is massive voter fraud.
So
I
why the
certainly,
Save Act then?
well, yeah, so I'll take it a step further. Although I have not seen that evidence, I'm not going to extend to say that the evidence is not out there. I just haven't seen it myself. So why the Save Act? So at the end of the day, I think we have this, I would say, pretty serious accusation of, massive voter fraud to the extent that it can alter the outcome of federal elections. And I think, that's a massive claim. And I think voting is something that in our country ought to be held pseudo sacred. And whatever we can do to ensure it's that it's protected, I think we ought to do. I think, and so the Save Act does it. Am I claiming that it's absolutely necessary in order to have fraudless elections? No, I'm not. That's not my claim. I didn't write the bill and put it forward, right? But I agree with it because essentially, it quenches, essentially, it's a step in the direction of having fraudless elections. If there is fraud to that extent, it's like, why not? Why not add another layer of protection? Why wait until something horrible like that level of fraud happens to add another level of protection to our elections?
Well, do you think right now people are able to register to vote without proving they're citizens?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, for my understanding, there's no state that does that. Like during the registration process, that's where that happens. That's where you're going to show all of those documents, and it's usually done like conveniently at the DMV.
Sure, yeah,
So you
absolutely.
can, like when I had to renew my license, and I there was a box that I just wanted me to check. Do I also want to register to vote? It was very convenient. So like the Save Act does something entirely different. It takes the the process of confirming this person's citizenship completely out of the state's hands, and it just makes it extremely inconvenient.
But how
So
does it take it out of the state hands? I thought it's still left in the state hands.
it's not. So look, voting is still done at the states, but it's not controlled by the states. Like right now, like in Virginia, you can just register to vote at the DMV and you can do it conveniently when you go to get your license or
Hmm.
when you go to renew your license, or you can even register to vote online in Virginia. Like it's very easy, right? And
Right.
I have to show all my documentation there. With the Save Act, they would essentially unregister everyone, and you couldn't. In order to get registered, you couldn't go to the DMV. You'd have to go to an election office, and only 6% of the country
No, that's
even
not.
do.
No, that's
Yes,
not true.
according to the per the Save Act, yes, you would.
No, that's not true. So
That
if
is
you
that is
no
straight from the Save Act.
no repeat that again. So
You
no one would be registered to vote, and
so
uh,
so if you've been registered even for decades, it would pretty much it would unpin your registration on
no,
nearly everyone.
no, I don't believe. No, the Save Act doesn't say
Yes,
that at all.
that's what would happen with the act,
No,
and then
no, no, no,
in order
no.
to get
The
registered.
Save Act says no, that the that the whoever's the voting officials, which is at the state level, are required to ensure that the individual who is registered to vote is a United States citizen per the
And how what is the process by which it's done?
it's by presenting by presenting documentary evidence. Now, if you are
What
registered
would
to
he,
vote, and
but how is it
hold,
then? Like, are you saying like right when I show up to vote, I just show my driver's license?
no, not. I think if I remember, if I read correctly, I think you can do that. No, no, by the way, not just your driver's license. So if it's a driver's license, it has to be at least a driver's license that also verifies citizenship, like the real IDs, the
The real
enhanced
ID wouldn't
license.
count. I can tell you this process. The real ID would not count. Military ID would not count. They
Okay,
want either a
no
passport.
military. No, no, no,
It would
no.
not.
Military ID does not would not count in and of itself, but
Right.
military ID accompanied with your military your service record,
No,
which
a
would
service record wouldn't count either. You would
no,
need
no,
a
military ID.
certified copy of your birth certificate
No,
with that
that's not
military
true.
ID. That is
That's not
true.
true.
Because
Military
because
ID.
your service record and the military ID doesn't even prove citizenship. They
Okay.
have non-Americans in the military.
Let me word it.
I enlisted in the
Differently.
army with a bunch of Africans.
Let me word it differently. According to to the Save Act, to the text in the Save Act, your
Hmm.
military ID accompanied with your service record. Now, and by the way, your
So,
service record.
what do you
Wait,
mean by service record? Like a
just
DD two
hear me.
fourteen?
I don't know. I don't know military documentation. So
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't know the exact title. But again, that would the service record does not prove citizenship in and of itself. But again,
Yes, all it would do is just show that you served in the military,
no.
which you
But
don't have to be an American to do.
I know that. But listen to me. If you are an American citizen, your service record would verify that you are an American citizen. Your
No,
service
that's not what
records.
the service record does. Your DD 214 doesn't say anything about that. It says you like your last duty station. It says how long you were in. It tells you about the
Maybe
awards you got. That's it.
maybe service record is not the proper term. Um, I believe I read service record, but it is your military ID accompanied with your service record that shows that you are a U.S. citizen. So not service record in and of itself, but service record that shows that you are a United States citizen.
So a service record. If you're talking about a DD 214, and that is what we use for service records, do not show that. The service record is literally just your service record.
Okay, let me ask
It
you this:
doesn't tell
what
you what your current status as a
Okay,
citizen
let me ask
is.
you this: what is the
But
what document tells you what military document tells your citizenship?
there's no military document that I'm aware of that would prove that. Like if you wanted to prove your citizenship, you would do the I-9 documents, like a passport, driver's license with a birth certificate, something like that.
Okay, then
That,
perhaps it's written incorrectly in the Save Act.
that's
Is
what
that
they would use. Let's talk about this. The
hmm
registration, in order to register, they make it super inconvenient. You can't do it through a DMV. You have to do it through an election registration office, and you have to present either a passport, which a lot of
wait?
Americans.
Wait. So let me just. Are you stating that everyone who so everyone will have to do this process whether you're registered to vote in the past or not?
So if you not everyone, nearly everyone. If you already have registered to vote through one of the election offices and presented your documents, then you would
hmm
be good. That is a tiny portion of the country. Most people, like especially if you live in Virginia,
I
people in
don't
the
know.
comments come back
I don't
me
know
up
if I
if
agree that that's a
if
tiny portion of the country, but go ahead.
okay, from what I saw, only 6% of the country actually goes to election offices to register. Like it's just inconvenient. Why
Oh,
would
I'm
you do
sorry. Oh, I
that?
misunderstood you. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I
Right.
misunderstood you.
Yeah. So it's typically what they do. They just register through the DMV, or you can do online, which is something that I've done before as well. And so now, and to what you would need to do, go to the election office and present a passport or a certified birth certificate with
Yes.
an official ID. That's where you could use your military ID, like your CAC, right? So
Okay.
a lot of people may not have those. Like I don't have a certified birth certificate. Like I
Okay.
have to go get that.
Right.
And then like I do have a passport, but a lot of other Americans don't. Like
Hey, your
especially like in,
passport. Hey, hold on. Your passport will work. That'll do.
yeah, a lot of
Well,
Americans don't have passports, is what I'm saying.
that's true. A lot of Americans don't have passports. So, and this is what where the crux of the argument. We at the end of the day, I believe that it's more important to ensure elections are closer to fraudless, I think is more important than not inconveniencing Americans in this way. And I think I would add that, in the event that a
This is
large
just the
swath of
starting.
people
It
are,
gets far more inconvenient than this because people who
how
live out
so?
west, they have to drive on average 260 miles to the nearest election registration office. You talking about
Oh,
four and
wait,
a
wait,
half
wait,
hour
whoa, whoa,
drive?
whoa, 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 whoa. You said the average person
Out west, yes,
out
out in the
west.
rural
What do
west.
you
We're
mean
talking
by
about
out real west? You're
rural
including like, okay, like all
Wyoming,
of
Utah,
Wyoming,
Colorado.
Iowa. Okay, gotcha,
Yeah,
sure.
like rural parts like that. I live right outside of
I
DC,
think,
so there's
I
plenty of
mean,
places I
I
can probably go
mean,
to.
the so again, and this just maybe this is a bit just semantics, but I just want to clarify your wording of so you're saying the average person has to drive 200 semi miles,
No, so okay, it
or are
says
you saying there are some people who may have to drive that length,
so in
that
the 30
distance, excuse me?
largest counties by area in western United States, voters would need to drive an average of 260 miles to reach an election office. That is how they register to vote.
So
So
so a
you
couple
you
things.
got to drive 4.5 hours in order to register to vote. Like, cause you were registered at first, you had been for decades, and then now you got to do it. Now you have to do it again because of this law passed. And if your address changed, guess what? You got to do it again. If your name changed, guess what? You got to do it again. And then if all of those documents, the names have to match. If there's any sort of differences, then you can't be registered. And even if the voting official, who's
That's not
usually a
no no no
volunteer,
no 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 no. Hold on. I think you're taking. I think you're adding quite a bit of inference here.
I'm
You're
not.
not. You
I'm about to
are.
tell you the
These
law.
things are not outlined
That
in the
that
Save Act,
yeah, it is in the Save Act.
nor are they
Yeah, if
requisite
your
for.
information changes, you have to re-register.
Yeah, 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 but so
That is in the Save Act.
no, no, no. Yeah, I'm not. I don't mean that specific. I mean, so first off, let's rewind a bit. So first off,
What was the
I did.
inference?
Sorry.
I said, what was the inference I made?
The things that people have to do just to be able to vote.
What?
So you do not. So first of all, you only have to, from what I understand, you only have to re-register if you if your citizenship is not already proven. Then you have to re-register. And so
So the way you
the,
prove your
so this would
citizenship through
so
their
this
process
would
is all of that stuff matching. If your address changes, then you have to redo the process. It's the same here.
I
The like my registration little thing that I used to have to go to vote. It'll get
uh-huh.
mailed to a different place if I didn't update that as well.
Oh, I
So
mean,
even in Virginia, they want you to change that.
yeah, I
But
mean, but
the
that's
problem, the thing is with the Save Act is that the process is already so arduous in the first place that having to redo it
I
in Virginia,
disagree
if
that the
I
process is arduous in the first place.
so okay,
Registering to vote is not
if you
arduous in the
live
first place.
so if you're
It
like
for
in
some
one of those
states it's
30
easier than
counties,
others. For some places it's easier than others, but in general, it's not arduous.
you talking about for some you talking about people in the 30 largest counties out west having to make a 4.5 hour trip. This ain't for work.
So I
This is
think
just to cast a vote. I'm sorry,
so
this
let
is
me
just to register to vote.
so let me so in response to that directly, okay, I think having to travel in excess of, we'll say, I think what's reasonable is 1 hour. Having to travel in excess of 1 hour to register to vote is in and of itself unreasonable. And I think, and one of the things I was going to add with this, and I'll insert it now, I think that in addition to the mandates that the SAVE Act, if passed in the Senate, would put on states as far as voter registration, they additionally need to add some funding to that. Some funding and some there's all I forget I've read about it.
But
I forget what it's
it
called.
doesn't look like any of that's included. But
That, no, 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 it's not included. It's not
but here's
included.
the but Nico, here's the big thing. So it's a huge inconvenience, right? And then remember, like just let me set all of this up, right? So you having some people that having to take like day trips just to register. A lot of people don't have those documents like a passport or a or certified copy of their birth certificate, which I don't
Yes.
have the latter.
Well, a lot of people
Right.
don't have them, and a lot of people do have them.
Yeah, and the problem is since a lot of people don't have them, and we don't, and we can confirm your citizenship through some other means. Why use that one? The states have a way to prevent fraudulent voting, and guess what? It works. That's why you have instances like in Utah when he did this decade long study and he found two people who were falsely registered, but actually no instances of voter fraud.
So I
It's
think
where you have
I think
study after study of
so
them. You
sure.
have
So that
14
study
year studies, and they're finding like two cases.
so that again
That means it works.
that study is that's great for lack of a better term,
Yeah, and it's
but
not just one;
Utah is
it's
not
dozens.
California, Utah is not New York, Utah is not, in any other
Those
state
weren't,
that
but Nico, those weren't the states. Those weren't the states where they were finding significant voter fraud.
it doesn't matter. Well,
It
I'm
was
just using
usually
I'm just
red
throwing the
states in general,
well,
but
I'm
even
not no
there,
no
it
no
was
I'm not
non-existent.
I'm not. I'm just. I only pull out. I only use the example of California and New York to contrast with Utah. They're vastly different. I'm not claiming that it's like blue states are the ones doing this issue. And look, would you agree with me with this?
But
It would also, to your point, with driving 4 hours and et cetera out west. Wouldn't there be? I estimate right around an even number of red and blue voters to be affected by the Save Act. Would you agree?
yeah, and so and here's the thing: like I'm not I don't care about making their voting rules like swaying the voting rules in such a way as to get one political outcome over another. Like
Yeah,
what I want
sure,
is
sure.
for people to vote and to make it
Yes,
accessible.
I
And
agree.
right, the process that we have now is easier. I think we could make it even easier. I think we
But
could just
what's more
allow
important?
we could do
But what's
online voting.
I'm,
Like you could
I'm,
just
I'm,
vote from your phone.
I mean,
But
I would as long as we could verify with with reasonable certainty. I'm all for that too. Being
right,
able to vote
and you
right
can do
from your
that.
phone.
Like I'm sure you have
100%.
online. You have online baking. There's a bunch of
Yes,
different. There's a bunch of different
absolutely.
mechanisms in place to certify that you are who you are.
I am more than willing to, yes,
But
I agree with you
and,
there.
and that this
But
Save
wouldn't you
Act
say
isn't doing that. But
that
hey, but
it's
here's
more
this.
important? It's more important to ensure our elections than it is to ensure convenience.
But what you're doing, you in order to prevent a negligible
Hmm.
and possibly non-existent amount of voter fraud, you're stopping millions of people from voting.
Potentially, potentially.
Not potentially. So like there's
So
other states that have actually tried this. So hold on, let me
yeah,
see
I
if I
read
can.
about one.
Yeah. So Kansas. Kansas implemented a state level proof of citizenship requirement for voter registration, similar to the
Hmm.
Save Act.
Yep, that's
Before
one I
the
read about.
law, before the law, non-citizen voter registration in Kansas was approximately 0.002%. Okay,
Yes.
0.002% of all registered voters. After the law took effect, it blocked roughly 31,000 eligible U.S. citizens, representing 12% of all applicants from voting. So to prevent 0.002%, they've stopped 12% of the population from voting.
Yeah, so that was
The,
whatever initiative that was a massive failure.
right, the it was this. Their initiative was pretty much the Save Act, but on a state level.
Yeah. So again, right. So whatever, how, I don't know at what level, I don't know where it failed. If it was the execution, if it was the implementation, if it was the, I don't know at what level it failed. But if what you, because I read that too,
Because
and where I read it is as I had no reason, I had no reason to believe that anything that it said was false. If those numbers are accurate, yeah, that's a failure. But I don't think that just because that initiative failed in that way, that we should automatically can the save at. And furthermore, I don't accept that the I think so. Were you citing the Utah study where you said of 6 million voters, two were there were two who were illegally registered, and of
yeah,
those two, zero voted. Was that the Utah study?
I think it was you. I think it was you. So I may have gotten the state mixed up, but it
Okay,
was
so
some
again,
others.
so I completely reject, right, the notion that those anywhere close to those same numbers would be reflected throughout the country. That of the eligible,
So
you know,
that's it, but that's the thing, Nico. So I didn't base it just off Utah. Like I said, I have in front of me about it looks like about 40 or 50 studies.
sure.
And like they're all giving these insignificant amounts.
Hmm.
Point zero 0.02, point zero 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 0.0003, point zero zero 0.0025. Like it's just non-existent. Like this is a
I
problem
mean,
that
sure, according to those studies.
right. So if we're not going to use a scientific study, what are we going to use? Our gut?
No,
Like
no, I
we
think,
should base the policies on science, right?
well, yes, but I mean, but you
So
know
if the science is
what
telling us that there's no
if
problem,
the
what are
science
we
is telling us,
doing?
if the science is telling us, but see what you have to do, what I've learned, and I learned this through researching the wage gap, is that you can't just look at the study. You have to look at how the study is studied. You have to look at who did the study and how they conducted the study and the sample that they took the study from. You have to dig into
So I can
all the
tell you,
details to
I can,
validate whether any information that the
I can
study presents is relevant.
I can tell you what they
So
did. So
go
they
ahead.
what they did was they look at all the registered voters, right? All the registered applicants, and then they just
Hmm.
started digging into their information to see if there was any inconsistencies, whether they had actually proved that they were eligible to vote.
Hmm.
That's what's the method. They pretty much all did this. I mean, like the method isn't going to really change significantly compared to where you go. Like if you want to find voter fraud in Virginia or you want to find it in New York, you're
I
pretty
don't
much
know,
going to
man.
do mostly the
I
same
don't know,
thing.
man. I've seen some
You're going
pretty
to go through
nasty.
the registered
I've
applicants
seen
and then
some.
verify their information.
I've seen some pretty nasty manipulation of information. Pretty
Right? Yeah,
nasty,
sure. I've
man.
seen like look,
And I'm
I've
sure you
seen
have too. Yes,
I've seen it as well. But
yes.
unless we can actually present evidence of that, we shouldn't be making the Save Act that's going to unregister millions of people like for no reason.
It doesn't unregister people. That
Okay,
does
so
not happen.
okay, whatever word you want to use. Either way, if they do not go through this process, they will not
For
be able to vote. Is what I'm saying. So you whatever word you want to use, you can't vote in the upcoming election if you don't go through the process. If this act is passed
What? Who? Are you saying that's for everybody who wants to vote?
for nearly everyone, because like
No,
I was saying,
that is not. No, 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 no,
most
no.
people who do
There's only a certain percentage of voters.
it's a huge percentage.
No, it's way. It's not even. No, it's not even 50%. It's not
No,
even.
no, it's way over that.
It's way less
It's
than that. No,
it
no, no, no,
that
no,
that
no,
is
no.
that is not cool. That is not true.
Yes, it is. The Not everybody has to is going to be affected in in their voting process. There's going to be a large amount. The majority of people who are already registered to vote essentially won't have to do anything but vote.
That is not the case. So
That
like
is the
right
case.
so Nico, does Virginia? Do you think Virginia has my birth certificate or my passport?
What do you mean?
Does Virginia have a copy of my passport and birth certificate?
Oh,
The answer
I
is no.
don't.
So
No, no, I
yeah,
don't. No,
they
why
don't
would
have it.
they?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
exactly, because it's not a requirement. Like it's not a requirement in, like in any of the states that I've seen. So what that means, so since it's not a requirement, nobody's done that. As a matter of fact, the states aren't even going to have records of that because why would they?
no, I don't. So no,
So
no,
if it becomes a requirement, now they're going to need to present that information.
no, 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 no. That's not no. So no, no, you're off on this. So of all registered voters,
Hmm.
there is a, and I would agree with you because I think you said this earlier. The majority registered voters, the majority are U.S. citizens, and that they've been proven to be U.S. citizens. Not every single person who was registered to vote is under the Save Act is going to have to re-register or re-go again according to the text is going to have to re-register or re-go through some process. The essentially it
Does you live in well, don't have to dox yourself, but like
New
wait,
York. I live in New
you
York.
New
That's
York,
fine.
does New
Yeah.
York have a copy of your passport?
I don't know if they I think they have a copy of my passport because I have an enhanced license which also proves citizenship.
Okay, so an enhanced license wouldn't make the cut.
An enhanced
The-
license does make the
It
cut.
does not according
How
to the
does
Save Act.
how does it not make the cut?
Because it just doesn't suffice. You need a
Yes, it
passport.
does.
No, it doesn't.
You don't.
That
It
is
does. You
false. It is not. You need a This is what
state
you need. You need a passport.
government issued ID that proves citizenship is accepted.
No, so you with that with your ID, you're going to need either a certified copy of your passport or a
That's not
certified copy of
true.
your naturalization papers.
That is not true.
That is true.
Okay, let me read it to you. Okay. Documentary proof of United States citizenship, as used in the Save Act. The term documentary proof of United States citizenship, okay, this is just definition, means with respect to an applicant, voter registration. Okay. Any of the following. Number one, a form of identification issued consistent with the requirements of Real ID Act of 2005 that indicates the applicant is a citizen of the United States. Enhanced license does that in accordance with the
What
Real ID Act of
is
2005.
there?
I
Is
just
there
read
more?
that.
Can you keep reading? What's
Well, it's a list. So that was the end of point
mhm.
number one. Point number two, which is like not and, but or, is a valid United States passport. That's
so
two.
so
And then hold on, and
okay.
just to come back to it, let me just go ahead and read three. Okay. The applicant's official United States military identification card, together with a United States military record of service, showing that the applicant's place of birth was in the US, which is precisely what I stated earlier. And I'm reading verbatim from the SAVE Act. Verbatim. I'm reading that, which is precisely what I said earlier.
Okay, so when okay, so you said the Record of Service Act. You said it shows the birthplace.
Yes. No, no,
Oh,
no, no,
okay.
no. I'm not
Well,
saying,
sure. I
I'm
mean,
not, yeah. That's
sure.
exactly what I said.
Sure. Okay, sure. I can see that. But as far as I'm concerned, a DD 214, I didn't know that it showed that where you were born. But if
And
that's the
again,
case,
and
I mean
just to be clear,
that's a small point. Like I mean, sure.
no,
I'll
I just
concede
want
that.
to throw that one in there as well because again, I'm talking about according to the text of the Saved Act.
What can you tell me the exact point that you're reading from in the text? Like, give me the like subheading.
Okay, section two.
Uh huh.
Section 2, ensuring, which is titled Ensuring Only Citizens Are Registered to Vote in Elections for Federal Office. And then under point, so it starts with definitions, and then it goes point B, documentary proof of United States citizenship. And then number one under point B, or lowercase b, number one, a form of identification issued consistent with the requirements of the Real ID Act of 2005 that indicates an applicant is a citizen of the United States.
So this is what I read. Okay, look, it says a valid government issued photo identification card issued by the federal, state, or tribal government, other than identification described in the paragraphs 1 through 4. Hold on. Hmm.
And see, this is what I mean. And so again, the Save Act,
Mm-hmm.
the detractors of the Save Act present as though it's this extremely nefarious, evil piece of legislation that's going to prevent all these millions of people from being able to vote and all this. And
Well,
look,
but it would.
I'll jump
But
on,
okay, but it
your
would.
side. Hold on, I'll jump on your side,
Okay.
and I'll say that I believe that less people overall like if the Save Act is passed, less
Mm-hmm.
people overall would vote, which I don't like and I don't appreciate. And but I think I would take it over the chance of having a fraudulent election or an election with
So
massive voter fraud.
so I want to go back to the ID thing, right?
Sure.
So the real ID does not prove that you're a citizen.
No,
Okay,
I never.
that's
No, I
right.
didn't say it.
So
Enhanced license.
right. So
Enhanced.
enhanced. What's that?
Yes, that. Yes, I said enhanced license. So first off, enhanced license, and then again, it refers to the
What's an
real
enhanced
ID.
license?
Enhanced license is a license that is issued to citizens of states that border other countries. So any state that borders Canada, any
Okay.
state that any
Well,
state that borders any state that borders Mexico, if you can opt for an enhanced license, which will allow you to cross the border with just your enhanced license.
okay. So all right. So let me. Okay. There was a misunderstanding when you said enhanced license. I thought you meant real ID. All right.
Okay.
So because when that's what I was referring to the entire time. A real ID wouldn't make the cut.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
that's what I thought you were talking about. So I didn't know that's what an enhanced license was. Now, so
Now,
can,
I will
can
say
we acknowledge the fact most people in the United States do not live in a country or live in a state that borders Canada or Mexico.
absolutely they do
Right.
not.
So we're talking about again.
However,
We're still talking about millions of people. You're talking about like
but
a
hold on though. But I want to add though, because again, it's that driver's license, being accepted because it proves citizenship in accordance with the what's called the Real ID Act of 2005. So I, the
so the
act is called,
enhanced ID meets the real ID requirement, but the real
yeah,
ID
right.
requirement does not prove citizenship. That's why you have
Oh,
to couple it with the things that I was saying: a certified birth certificate, and then the names have to match. If the names
sure.
don't match for whatever reason, such as you got married, you had a name change or whatever, you just can't get registered.
No, that's I don't that's not true.
That
It's
is
not true
true.
it's not true that you simply can't get registered. There's a section
The,
in the Save Act that says workarounds if this is a workaround, if that this is a workaround.
yeah,
And
marriage
granted,
certificate.
granted, they're not, yeah, it's an added step, but again, it's not true that they simply can't vote. And I think it's not, it doesn't, look, to me, again, if I'm looking at this bill
Hmm.
and I'm now I think the best point that you have, which again I don't necessarily disagree with, is the necessity for the bill. The necessity for the bill, is there fraud at the level, at such a massive level to affect our elections, and would this
There's
fight
definitely
against that?
not that amount of fraud, and the amount of fraud that it is, like I can't even say there's enough
Is
fraud
there
to
or
have any
could there be?
noticeable
Is
change
there
in
or
the
could there
elections.
be? Is
Like,
there or could there be? For example, like with
I mean,
9/11, like once 9/11 happened, a lot of the security measures at airports increased. And it was as a result of that tragedy. But I mean,
right? Because there's
perhaps there was
terrorists that's trying to
perhaps there
harm
was
people.
perhaps there
Ter-
was
Terrorists
perhaps
aren't trying to come here and
no.
change
That's not my
elections
point.
by voting.
That's not my point though. So that's moot
Okay.
to say. My point is this: we don't. I imagine. And again, I don't know this for a fact, but I can imagine that there were people calling for safer security measures at airports well before 9/11. But their requests fell on deaf ears. People are like, "Why? Who's going to do this or that? Why do we need that? Why do we need TSA? Why do we need that many TSA agents? Why do we need all of these additional
But
measures of security?" I I can see it, and it's okay.
but
9/11
Nico,
happens. It's
to
like, you know what? You were
you,
right. Let's do it. Let's
Nico, but
preemptively.
it sounds like
Let's
you're
preemptively.
arguing, but you're arguing as if it's between the Safe Act or no security measures at all. No,
No,
it's
I'm
it's
not.
just the Save Act
No, I'm
or a
not.
really, really, really good system that we have tons of scientific evidence that shows that it works.
No. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm
Okay.
arguing. I'm arguing. Save Act is on the end of more secure, and no Save Act is on the end of less secure. And I think whenever possible, we should opt for more secure.
Right. But you're talking about changing from 0.0003 to like 0.0002, 2.5 or something like that.
Well,
Like
no.
this is nonsense.
If those numbers are correct. Also, I'll take it a step further. And just because fraud has not, if, for example, if fraud in our elections has not happened at an extensive level, does not mean that it won't happen at an extensive level.
Yeah,
Why
and
not add,
that's
why
why
not
we have a
add,
really
why
but
not
Nico,
add another measure of security? Why not?
because it's going to result in millions of people not being able to vote.
It could result in millions of
No,
people. So
we have
instead,
a
why don't
prior example
instead
of this. They did
instead
this,
let's do this.
Nico. They did this
Instead
on the
of
state
not,
level, and
but
12% of the population couldn't vote.
that I mean, so in one state, those were the
In the
numbers.
one
And again,
state where it was tried.
no. So again, now dang, I just lost my train of thought. But so if more secure elections now, oh yes, I know what I was going to say. If instead of just saying, oh, we don't need the Save Act, let's trash it. How about we bridge the gap between the voters who you believe will be left out and being registered to vote through, for example, and again, and I think this is on the federal government to offer federal funding for election officials and election organizations, government, local, state election organizations to fill these gaps so that there is no 260-mile drive to the nearest voter registration site for any American. Because
I don't.
that's ridiculous in and of itself.
That is ridiculous. That's one of the reasons why it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's other reasons why it's ridiculous as well. But what I'm saying
So let's
is,
bridge the
but
gap.
what's the point? If by your own acknowledgement,
Security.
voter fraud in the United States is almost non-existent.
No, I did not. No, I did not acknowledge that it
Okay,
is.
well, the scientific studies, the science behind it, the people that actually dug into this, the
Mm,
research scientists that looked into this, and there's dozens of studies backing this, they all
mhm.
find pretty much the same thing. They find they're all really small numbers, way
But
less
again,
than
you
one
can't.
percent.
But again, unfortunately, you can't just throw the word studies out there. I can't accept just that because I've seen, and I didn't. I never knew. I guess I could have guessed this, but I didn't know the extent of studies that presented bad information until I actually looked into a bunch of studies for a bunch of reasons. And so if you just say studies show, that's not good enough. That's not
So
good enough to say,
every study available that we have, and that's the thing. If you look
mhm,
at like you look in these scientific research papers, it's rare that you'll find all of the scientific and academic literature agreeing on one position. That is extremely rare.
Sure.
And here you have that. Like it's
Well,
unanimous. I can't find a single paper showing anything different.
okay. I I don't know that. I mean, you can't find a single paper
I can't
that's
find.
that
I
that
was digging for it because I was like, I wonder which is he going to bring this one up, and I was like, there's none to be had. There's nothing there. That's what
yeah.
I went about an hour digging in for these papers because I thought that was what you were going to present, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And
No, I
you don't have it either.
I
So
do
what
not. No, I
so
didn't have
I'm
time to.
relying on science. What are you relying on?
So when you say I'm relying on science,
Hmm.
there is almost an assumption that of a scientific process that you came to this conclusion where, essentially there's essentially it's like, I don't want to use the term flawless, but it's accepted. And again, you
Yeah,
can't get
with the
that.
I used to sign. So they
It
use a
depends
scientific
on
method. I
it.
just
Well,
read
it
their papers.
depends. Yeah, right. But it depends on it depends on what's in the papers and who wrote them. You can't.
It's not
It's not. How is
all
it not?
the papers from what I saw, regardless of who wrote them. They were all saying the same thing. There was
So
even
the method of how information is gathered in a study is, it doesn't matter.
no, the method definitely matters. That's not what I said.
Okay,
You said like I got to know who wrote them or something like that, and I was saying like regardless of who wrote them,
not
like
necessarily who wrote, not
regardless,
necessarily, yeah, who wrote them,
I got to. This is
who
2011
funded the
study.
who funded the study. Is it, do they claim to be, are they claim to be nonpartisan? Are they actually nonpartisan? Right? Like there's
I don't know, but I
right,
mean
but
I don't know.
and I'm not,
Here's
I'm
one
not
that
faulting you
isn't
for not
partisan.
knowing, but what I'm saying is that it's relevant.
Here's one that's definitely partisan. A
Sure.
2011 study by the Republican National Lawyers Association found that between 2000 and 2010, the 20 states that they had actually looked into
Hmm.
had between 1 and 0 convictions for voter fraud or other
Convictions.
kinds of voting irregularities.
So first off, convictions. I mean,
That's a conviction. Yes,
sure.
a conviction.
Okay, yeah, sure. Which again, conviction is not. So a couple things. Number one, conviction is not a measurement of occurrence, right?
Yeah,
Because you
I
can't.
agree. But what I'm
Sure.
saying is, so this what I'm saying. This is a different method than
No,
just
I understand
actually
that,
just
but
digging into.
okay, but has our illegal immigration, what I would say that it was from the years 2000 to 2010 looked
Hmm.
vastly different than 2010 to 2020. Would you agree?
I agree. Now, do you have
Okay,
any
so
scientific evidence to
I think
suggest
that
that
there's
illegal
more.
immigrants were coming over here?
So I
That
think that there's more. So, but no, I don't offhand. But
hmm
again, just by nature of having more illegal immigrants than we've had in the past, in probably any 10-year block, right? That alone, that alone that alone would inspire anyone to say we should ensure that, especially with those accusations being out there, we should
no,
ensure that our voting process
what you
is
do?
secure.
No, no. You don't change an entire. You don't change an election process for a country of 330 million people based off of accusation. What you do is you look into the accusation. You do
Yes,
exactly what they
absolutely.
did. You said, okay, you said this happened. Let's dig into it. Let's actually
Yes,
research this. And
yes.
what they found is that there were mostly false.
So again, those studies that you're claiming, but again, before we can accept the information from these studies, we have to know the method by which they were conducted. I think
But I can
you
show you the.
have
So
to.
there was a bunch of different. There's a bunch of different methods,
Hmm.
but depending on what they were looking into, right? So like I showed you, so for one, they were looking for convictions. Then they were also looking for things like
Sure.
not only just like non-Americans voting. That was
Uh huh.
extremely rare,
Uh
right?
huh.
First of all, like illegal voting in general was just extremely rare, but most of
Sure.
it wasn't just it wasn't non-citizens. It was
Hmm.
people voting multiple times.
Oh
In
yeah,
most
sure,
instances, that's what it was. It was just an
sure,
American committing voter fraud.
sure. Okay, what's your point?
You were talking about how there was a mass immigration over the past 15 years, and that in
Yes.
itself is going to make it more likely. If that's the case, then you would see it in the evidence, right? You would see it in the studies. You should start seeing numbers go up. If that was true, you see all of them were Fox News. They would plaster their face. They, oh, look at all these examples, all that kind of stuff, right? And it just doesn't happen. You have all a bunch of accusations, but there's no. Where's the science? And
Yeah. So
would you
go
agree?
ahead.
Because it seems like what you're doing is,
Hmm.
instead of addressing the actual scientific studies, you're trying
Hmm.
to undercut the scientific. You're trying to just throw it all away by
Well,
undercutting the
the reason
scientific method
well
process itself.
the reason I'm not addressing the scientific studies, like engaging with them for what they say, is because I haven't read them, and so
Okay.
because I haven't read them, at least the ones that I'm sure I've read some over the years, but I've not read. So I don't know what you research, what you're referring to, and I've not read them, so I can't engage intelligently with them. But and again, just to be clear, just because I think this might have been lost a little bit, I'm not saying, hey, those studies that you have are fraudulent or are wrong. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that because I've not read them. I'm saying that it's entirely possible for a series of studies, tens of twenties of thirties of studies, to say something similar, and that similar thing that they state could be entirely false. So to
Yes,
prevent that and to
that's a
avoid that,
fact. That's true.
we have to, because it's not good enough if you, because I understand you're presenting quote unquote
Mm.
evidence. I get that, but what I'm saying is that unfortunately your evidence, I can't accept your evidence as evidence unless I have some type of validation or verification for the accuracy of that evidence.
Well, a good start would be to read them, right? To
Yeah,
look at these studies.
no, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. Right.
Hundred
And so,
percent.
okay, yeah. Right. So, if you did that,
Which
don't
I
you think
think,
it?
again, which I think the more educated Americans we have, the better. I'm not gonna go.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say, look, I'm one of the most educated Americans out there. I definitely think I have an above average education on the general happenings of the country and our political process, the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. But again, even I'm not sitting here. Look, based on the information that I have, the information that's made available to me, I say, look, I if there's a list of 30 things, 40 things that I want Congress to do, well, I shouldn't say that. If there's a list of 10 things that I want Congress to do, I'm not sure that the SAVE Act makes the list of the top 10, based on the information that I have. It doesn't meet that level of urgency for me. Um, some politicians may believe that it does. It's like, hey, why do you believe that kind of deal? So again, I just believe that based on what I know, based on what I've read in the policy, I'm like, you know what? Sure, let's do it. Why not? Let's do it. And again,
Well,
and I
you,
again, I I hear that. I hear the argument of voters being, through essentially red tape, being unable to vote. Like that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. Americans being unable to vote. That's a really bad thing. So I think one of the things that we can do or present as a remedy for that is an amendment to the act as written to fill in those gaps wherever they may be, to streamline the verification process, to what again, whatever needs to be done, right? Especially if I'm a person who's saying that we need the SAVE Act, then okay, sure. So you have to also, as the federal government, provide the funding to make it happen.
why does why have the Save Act in the first place if the states already have their own verification process that works? based on all the available evidence.
So the people who the authors of the Save Act, and I would hope every congressman that voted yes for it, they feel as though it's necessary.
Based
So
on what? But like,
I
do they
can't
have
speak.
any evidence?
I can't speak for them,
They're going on a
but
gut.
I can't speak for them. But again, my
Okay.
hopefully each and every person who voted for it believes that it's necessary. And so you ask the question, why the Save Act? Because the measures that we currently have can be circumvented,
So
right?
can the Save Act.
Sure, but
You can
does the
falsify
Save Act
all of those things.
but does the Save Act make it more difficult to do that?
I mean, it makes it more
You can
difficult to do
you can sneak
everything.
a gun through TSA, but
Yeah,
the
I mean, it
metal
makes
detectors and the TSA agents and
right.
the dogs, that it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah. So, but it makes it this Save Act would make it more difficult to do everything. And it's like
That
it's
I don't
it.
no, I
Well,
don't agree with that.
yeah, yeah. How it would not like even like you were talking about how it's unreasonable to have to drive an hour when I was pointing out how people would have to drive 4.5 hours
Yeah, I agree
out
with you there.
west.
Yeah.
Right, just to re-register. The
Yeah, but I think
process
but you
now
also
already
said that
works. I can
pretty much everybody who's currently registered would be essentially unregistered, which is not true.
so
That's not true.
like, how is it not true? Like
It's
so right okay so right like for me for example, I registered through the Virginia process of I just re-registered my driver's license
hmm
and they already have access to my birth certificate, my birth information through North Carolina and everything. Right
hmm
now, they passed the Save Act. Can I vote in the upcoming election?
I believe so.
No. The answer is no
How
because
is that so?
I didn't submit the
No.
documents that's required. The Virginia does not have my
So no, no,
passport.
no. So in the Save Act text, one of the things that's also mentioned is states, state-run election organizations, being able to verify certain voters' citizenship without the voter having to do anything. They through the through I believe Homeland Security, the election the election organization has to or can contact the Homeland contact. I think it's a department under the Homeland Security to verify a voter's citizenship, and the voter has to do nothing. So that voter's citizenship is already verified.
So it what I'm reading right here and what is subsection C
hmm
1A, it says they strike each state motor vehicle's driver's license application.
Where is that?
Uh, sections. Uh, I don't know how to describe it. It's in five.
Which
It's
book?
beneath five,
Okay, five. The duty of
but
Secretary of Homeland Security. That one,
I don't see that.
because
But
there's a
you
bunch
saying
of.
the Secretary of Homeland Security? What can she do? She can.
So what I believe I read is that the election organization the state-run election organization can reach out to the Secretary of Homeland Security or some office underneath Homeland Security, run by Homeland Security, to verify the voter's citizenship.
Oh yeah yeah that's for naturalization certificate.
Is
I
it
see that
only
right
for
now.
naturalization certificate?
That's the only thing that I see it for.
I
Yep.
don't remember
This
where I
it.
read that at.
So the natural for so the naturalization certificate of citizenship issued by the Homeland Security. Yeah, it looks like that's what. So that's for immigrants that are
hmm
not that become naturalized. They're able to reach out
hmm
to the Secretary of State to get the person's documents like their birth certificate and all that type of stuff.
No, I don't think that's. I don't think that's what I. That sounds similar to what I said, but that's. I don't think that was it. I think it was slightly
Okay.
different. So, save act. We passing it.
I hope not because I think it's monumentally stupid. It's a non-existent problem.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah.
No, but again, I think you raised some serious concerns. I've heard some of those concerns as well. But
Hmm.
I and again, I think in this in the I've become incredibly skeptical of everything around me over the last couple years. And to the point where I have to fight off, and I'll admit to this, no problem, I'll admit to this. I have to fight off conspiracy theories from like overtaking my thinking because
You gotta
some
turn
of
off that
the
Candace Owens, man.
oh my goodness, brother,
Yeah.
brother, it is I have to fight off conspiracy theories with a stick, bro, because again, some of the I won't call it evidence because I have a bit of a higher standard to just say evidence, but some of the information that's being presented as evidence for certain things is some things are becoming more and more difficult to believe actually occurred. For example, the moon landing.
Okay.
But so I've become incredibly skeptical, and so
You
with
think
this save,
dinosaurs are fake and gay?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
I think Candace Owens, man. I think she went off. I mean, she had always been crazy to me, but like now she's insane, man.
So let
The
me ask you a question, and
reports
this
of
is
Charlie
way
Kirk
off.
coming to her in dreams and stuff. And go
No,
ahead.
this is way off topic.
Okay.
But do you believe that do you believe that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a unilateral decision by one individual?
Oh, I don't know. I've recently heard that, and I saw this clip. Apparently, the bullet that they have in court was doesn't match the it
Yes.
wasn't 30. I think because I think the shooter used a 30-06, and
Yes.
apparently
30
what
at
they
six.
presented in court wasn't a 30-06, and
Yes.
so I mean that's weird. I do know mix-ups in evidence can happen.
Oh, certainly,
I mean,
absolutely. I'm
and
in law enforcement. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And so, but conspiracy, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. Um, I mean, I don't.
So my question is this, but just do you believe that again, I know you don't know, none of us
Hmm.
know,
Yeah,
but do you believe it was done by one person acting unilaterally?
I haven't looked into this enough to determine that. What I will say is, I I don't think Charlie Kirk had the audience
Hmm.
and the public power
Hmm.
to warrant a government assassination or some sort of conspiracy like that. Like I heard, like
I
oh,
wholeheartedly
maybe
disagree.
Israel did it or something.
I wholeheartedly
I
disagree.
oh yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
his I think his influence was not only was it massive, I don't even think the size of his influence was the scary part. I think the what was the scary part about his influence was the speed at which it was growing.
I think it
And
grew significantly after he died.
it did. But I'm talking about
Yeah,
before he died. Before he died, the speed at which his popularity was growing. It was like anything. It's like you're familiar with like long term investing, where like on at the back end it just gets crazy. It's just where the front end, I believe that was starting to occur with Charlie Kirk's movement. I believe that, but again, before I get too deep into that, I long story, well, so recently, we'll say in the last 3 years, I had a close friend of mine in close. How do I not say too much? we whatever. A close friend of mine was um, potentially potentially being unfaithful to his wife, and nobody had any evidence that he indeed was. But what there were was, I mean, in excess of 15, 20 odd occurrences. And each one of them, in and of themselves, were like, I mean, there's not much there. But the fact that all 15 of these occurrences simultaneously exist, right? That's what makes it extremely odd. So I believe the same thing with Charlie Kirk's murder. There's any one thing that you mention or point to is like, yeah, that's a little odd, but
Hmm.
whatever. That in and of itself is not saying anything concrete. But the fact that there are 20, 30 odd occurrences, just super odd. The fact that they all exist and they're all simultaneous is makes I am deeply convinced that he was not killed by one man who did not like what he was saying.
Hmm.
He was killed by, and again, it sounds like I'm wearing an aluminum hat just saying this,
Yeah,
but
he may. I
he was killed. I believe
I didn't
wholeheartedly.
understand the appeal. I listened to him argue, and for the most part, he seemed like he wasn't very knowledgeable on the things, most of the things that he would talk about. I'm convinced to this day that he
What?
still did not know what DEI is.
I totally disagree.
Okay, you think he knew what DEI was? Because he would talk
Yes.
about quotas and stuff like that.
So I think one of the things where people misunderstand his DEI, um, his DEI takes is they would one of the things he would talk about is essentially what DEI does. And
He said that they would lower the standards for people,
right, so
and that's
he's
not what
not
DEI was doing.
no, so that's what so again, but that's not a failure, that's not a lack of understanding of DEI. That's him
He's
concluding
lying. You
that
think he was
no, it's
intentionally?
not lying. No, he's concluding that this would be the outcome.
But it wasn't. So the things he was describing just wasn't, because like
That's not I don't think
it
that's
would
true
be
at
backed
all.
up in the, so in the organizations that where DEI was implemented, you would see their productivity or their efficiency. You would see it go down, and that's not what was happening.
No, no, it didn't. No, wait, no, 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 no.
Professions weren't losing skills based on their DEI. Like there would be you would see this over and over again.
Wait,
Like
no,
for
that's
instance,
not.
like
No, no, no,
if
no, 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 no. There's no.
what
That's
if that was the
that
case?
occurs. That occurs. That occurs by. So it's not necessarily a reduction. It's not necessarily a reduction in quality, but it is likely that there's a reduction in quality. And the military is a
But
great example.
say if you're lowering the requirements for entry,
Hmm.
you're gonna have a reduction in quality.
Yes, that's what Charlie Kirk believed.
But yeah, but okay, but that's not what was happening with DEI.
That's not. That's not.
It wasn't
That's not.
lowering the
That's not.
requirements.
That's not necessarily true at
No,
all.
that's not DEI. DEI, what it essentially
What do
does
you mean?
is it,
How's that not DEI? Wait, what? How's that not DEI?
because that's just not what it
Or no,
is.
no, 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 not DEI. How's that not a result of DEI?
Because DEI doesn't do that. It doesn't lower
How does
requirements for entry. That's not what people. So there's a lot of fields where a lot people and different demographics just don't know about. They just don't know how to get in. What DEI
okay?
does is it go out and reach those communities. And it says, "Hey,
No,
you want to do this?
no.
This is how you do it. You're going out. You're effectively advertising this to them, saying, hey, we want to have a day where we're going to
No,
bring in
no, no,
a
no.
bunch of
You're
inner
no, no, no,
city.
no, 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 no. No. What you're referring to is how DEI should be.
What I'm telling you is
That's
how
what.
DEI is. If you're okay, but
No, that is
but
not,
Nico, you
dude.
just
That
said
is not
Nico, you just said
true,
yourself,
brother.
you just said yourself that if you were to lower the requirements,
Yes.
we would have lower skill level, right? You have lower
Yes.
productivity.
Yes.
Yet in disciplines where DEI
Lower
was,
quality.
there was not lower quality.
I
Why is that?
I wholeheartedly disagree with you, brother.
Bring me the study.
And see, and I think so.
I need science. Bring me science.
I understand that you need science, and I think that's a good thing. But can I give you a
You give me your
non-science
gut.
example? No,
A
I'm
non.
not.
You want to give me your
No, I'm
gut?
not. I'm not going to give you my gut.
Okay.
Okay. So at a certain point in time, the I'll because I want to mention both the United States
Mm-hmm.
military and law enforcement, but I won't. I'll stick to just law enforcement. So, law enforcement allows women to be police officers, for example. I don't think that women should be not allowed to be prevented from being police officers. However, I will say this with opening the doors to women. So, first off, from the very inception to enter, there are two different standards for physical strength. There's the
Yeah.
female standard and there's the male standard. Okay,
Right.
so once you present, and the female is lower than the male. So now, once you start hiring these female officers, the overall physical strength of the department is factually lower than it would
Sure.
be if there were no women allowed. So, but hold on, I'll take it a step further. I'll take it a step further. So, what that turns into on the street in real encounters, and again, and I'll add the contrary
I,
to this in
I'll
a
give you
second.
I
But
want to give you like last word. Unfortunately, I gotta
okay,
like end really soon.
I
My
got you.
daughter's
Okay,
gonna go
yeah, I
outside.
got you. So I'll wrap this up quick. So again, so by default, that reduces the overall physical strength of the department, and what that turns into is there are encounters that are physical that are less efficient. For example, physically apprehending somebody who's resistant to being physically apprehended, the quality of that detention is much lower with female officers involved, which increases the rate of officer injuries, suspect injuries, the whole gamut. And so, again, it's a default occurrence.
So let's have you back on and we can discuss that.
Okay, yeah. So
I
next time we'll
I
be talking DEI is the next topic.
yeah, but
Okay.
I'm gonna want scientific papers. All
But
right,
again,
you know.
but even the example that I just gave you, there's no scientific paper, but is that not obvious to you? What I just presented.
Sure. I'm not so like when I went through police academy back in 2016, and the standard. I think we did push-ups. I don't know if females had different standards. I don't recall. But
Sorry, I
definitely.
gotta respond to somebody in the chat because this is insane what they just wrote. But no, go ahead.
Um, but what I was gonna say, like, I would say sure. If you were to have if you had to have a police department that consisted entirely of women, then sure that there's gonna be a physical disadvantage,
Sure,
like on that part. Sure,
sure.
I agree with that.
Sure.
But
And so
but
the same thing occurs across all the metrics. So physical strength, critical thinking, leadership, you name it.
that is they are not reducing critical thinking requirements. I want you to give me an example
not
of
the
that. That is not
no,
happening.
no. Again, and this is what I'm talking about with Charlie Kirk. It's not the requirements that are being reduced. It's a default reaction. It's a default outcome because less women than men think critically well, especially in stressful
Okay.
situations.
All right. Well, hey, let's bring you back on for that.
Okay, okay,
All
okay.
right.
And again, and just for
You
all the
said
listeners out there, in case
women
I
think
am
critic.
not Yes, just to be clear, I'm not against female police officers. I know
Okay.
some excellent female police officers. I'm friends with female
But
police officers.
they don't think as critically
They don't
as we
they
men.
don't they don't they don't think as critically well. And it sounds it's a
Okay.
weird sentence
All
structure,
right.
but they don't think as
Okay.
critically well
All
as
right.
men do.
All right. I want scientific studies for that too. But all right. Yeah. But anyway, hey man.
Sometimes we gotta rely on common sense.
Okay. You know what? Common sense and science. A lot of times they don't always go too well. Like our common sense, they're kind of based on previous experiences and our own tuitions, and
Sure.
sometimes they can just be very untrustworthy.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I
anyway,
do agree.
man, I appreciate you coming on. My daughter's here. She's
Yeah, I know, man. I see
um
you being attacked.
yeah.
No, listen, it's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. We'll do it again sometime.
All right, most definitely, bro.
Okay, brother. Have a good one.
All right, man. I'll see y'all.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch y'all next time.